good, fans? So later on today, in a couple hours here, we got a heavyweight matchup for the WBA Super, IBF, WBO, and IBO titles, like 15 of them motherfuckers. It's going to be Wladimir Klitschko versus Kubrat Pulev. Now, in Wladimir Klitschko, we got a dude who, in my opinion, embodies what the heavyweight fighter should look like physically. I mean, y'all remember who cats who are old enough to remember the early 90s, the mid 80s. Cats was real big, kind of like the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Dudes was actually in the gym working out, lifting weights, bench pressing and shit. They was real big, had veins popping out of their biceps. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, just like in the NBA, we got fat dudes, you know what I'm saying, being talked about as one of the best players, or fat heavyweight boxers being the top rated guys, and you got, skinny motherfuckers with no muscle tone and shit. I can't stand that shit. But see, Wladimir embodies the physical appearance that needs to be in the heavyweight division. He's tall, he's muscular, he's 6'6". He always weighs in the 240-pound range, all muscle. He has an 81-inch reach advantage. I mean, he embodies what the heavyweight should look like physically. Also, this dude, the last time this dude lost, or one of the guys that actually beat him, Klitschko has been so dominant that one of the guys that beat him died like 2 years ago. That's how long it's been since he's lost. Very dominant. Very dominant. And then we got Kubrat Pulev, who's a very good fighter. Very good fighter. He uses the outside. He's not very aggressive, but he does have high volume. I mean, I don't want to say high volume. Heavyweights don't really have high volume, but he has more volume than the average heavyweight. We'll just put it that way. So let's go in here and break this down real quick. So Wladimir Klitschko, he's 62 wins, 3 losses, 52 knockouts. He's been in the game for 18 years. Tomorrow will be his 18th year as a boxer. Been a fighter since 1996. He's 38 years old. He's been a champion since 2004. He has 20 title defenses. I was reading something on Google the other day. There's an article out there basically saying that he's 3 wins away from eclipsing Joe Louis in title defenses, which would make him the most dominant heavyweight ever. Now, that title is a little far-fetched simply because of the competition Klitschko has been fighting compared to the competition Joe Louis was fighting back in the day. But I mean, it's still a statistic. It's still a valid statistic. So, I mean, we gotta give credence to it. I don't think Klitschko is a very great fighter. I know a lot of heavyweights that if they were in this boxing era, they probably would have knocked Klitschko out about 3 or 4 times over. I mean, it's just like watching basketball. Like I personally feel that the mid 80s, 90s era, players from that era who weren't shit will come into this era of basketball and dominate. It's the same thing with Klitschko and other or older heavyweight fighters. His last fight was against Alex Leopai, an Australian bum, pretty much. He was in the rankings. He did deserve a title shot. He was in the rankings, but it's a heavyweight division. That really doesn't say much. He knocked him out in the 5th round. I think probably out of, I say, the last 10 title defenses, his biggest test was against Alexander Povetkin, and Povetkin was doing a very good job against Klitschko. The only problem is Klitschko was pushing off on Povetkin. I mean, it was clearly to the point where some points should have been taken off for excessive pushing. But Povetkin didn't convince the referee to basically take a point off, meaning he did not show that he was being bothered by the cheating. So therefore, the referee is, he's pretty much going to let it happen. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that you have to, go to the extent where you're being dramatic, like Adrian Broner was against Marcos Maidana when he got hit low. He's being extremely dramatic. I actually lost some respect for him because he pulled that shit. But I'm not saying you should have to do that. But at the same time, you do have to show that, hey, ref, look at this shit. It's bothering me. He's pushing me. Make it to where the judges see that you're letting the referee know what's going on. Then the referee will have to act on that. And he didn't do that. So basically, Klitschko was able to get away with some cheating, some fouling there. He also rubbed his glove in Povetkin's face a lot in that fight as well. But nevertheless, he comes out with a unanimous decision win against Povetkin, which was probably his stiffest test to date. I think his brother was a lot better than he was. He pretty much was the guy to beat in that division. I think Klitschko can be beat by Deontay Wilder if he gets to that point. I think he can be beat by Bryant Jennings. But that's not who's in front of him today. We've got Kubrat Pulev in front of him. He's 6'4.5". He's got a 77-inch reach. He's 20-0 with 11 knockouts. 32 years old, and he's been in the game for 5 years. His last fight was against an extreme bum. 20 wins, 23 losses. Extreme bum. I guess it was a stay busy fight, but he could have fought somebody a lot better than that. The heavyweights have a bunch of fighters in that division. If you're gonna fight a no-name, at least make it a no-name with a decent record, like Klitschko did in his last fight. He beat Tony Thompson. I had Tony Thompson. I had Tony Thompson making it a close fight. I had Pulev winning the fight, but I had it to where Pulev would win maybe by split decision or majority decision. He actually won by unanimous decision. That was pretty impressive to me. Tony Thompson's not a slouch. He's not great, but he's not a slouch. And he went ahead and he dominated that fight. But his best fight to date was, in my opinion, a knockout of Alexander Dimitriko. Knocked him out in the 11th round. And then right after that, he knocks out Alexander Ustinov. So he knocks out two Alexanders in the same round, two different fights. Dimitriko had one loss. Ustinov was undefeated. And Ustinov was actually looked at as a highly rated prospect at that time in the heavyweight division. I saw some comments on different websites, and I heard some people whispering that the Klitschkos were avoiding Alexander Ustinov. I don't know why. Ustinov's a big, fat, blubbery motherfucker. It is what it is, but he had punching power, so, what I'm saying, people going to pretty much say, oh, Klitschko's avoiding him because it's punching power. Punching power takes you a long way. I will do a video about punching power and speed. Be on the lookout for that. But, yeah, he knocks them out in the same round. Those are his two best fights to date. I think those knockouts, they both came in the 11th round. And it was against fighters who do have weight issues. I believe that those fights tell me that Kubrat Pulev has good stamina. It doesn't necessarily mean to me that he has great punching power. It means to me that he has good stamina. Now, I said earlier in this video that he's high volume for the heavyweight division. So basically, Pulev breaks you down. Okay, if you're fighting a fighter that breaks you down and you yourself have a weight problem, which in most terms leads to stamina problems or endurance issues, then more than likely you're probably going to get knocked out, or it's going to be TKOs, going to be TKO stoppages. That could happen. I mean, look at Chris Arreola. But if I believe that Pulev, with his his high volume or above average volume for a heavyweight and his stamina, that's an advantage for him against the Alexander Dimitrikovs of the heavyweight division. Against Wladimir Klitschko also has great stamina, and he uses the jab and he uses distance. I predict this fight is going to look like a fucking rock and sock'em robot fight. I mean, two guys who stand there flat-footed, and they both do the same fucking thing. Pulev does it so much. I can't stand this shit, but he pretty much will have his right hand up, and he'll have his fucking left hand. He's orthodox. He'll have his left hand at his side, and he'll be fucking swinging it up and down and like waving the motherfucker like he's trying to throw a feint but don't know how to throw a feint. That's what he does. But Klitschko does the same fucking shit. And with Klitschko, he'll sit there and wave it up and down, move it around at his side and shit. Then he'll put it in your face, then pull it back down. That's what Klitschko does. So don't be surprised that if you see an exchange between these two at some point in this fight, they both throw jabs, and they both hit each other in the face. Just like some damn rock'em sock'em robots. Just standing there in one position, waving a motherfucking hand, and they both throw the jab at the same time, and they both land on each other. Don't be surprised if you see that exchange a whole bunch of times in this fight. Pulev is a decent fighter. He's pretty smart. He's pretty smart when you compare him to other heavyweights. He needs to do what a Layman Brewster does. I think any fighter would have to do what a Layman Brewster does on Klitschko, and that's to get around the jab and touch his chin. He has a weak chin. The fighters he's been fighting, he's been able to dominate him from a distance with the jab. Nobody's since Layman Brewster's got inside, hit him in the chin. So if Pulev can do that, his punching power is not that great, but Klitschko's chin is not that good. I mean, Corey Sanders knocked him out. Rest in peace to Corey Sanders. He knocked him out. He wasn't that great of a power puncher, but I mean I don't think that he'll be able to do that. Just given his style, he's not an ambush style type fighter. He's not an inside type fighter. So, who wins this? I got Wladimir Klitschko by unanimous decision. I think his jab is going to be way too much. I think this fight is going to be the test of the jab. Klitschko is going to out jab Pulev, I believe, for 12 rounds. Now, if I were betting on this fight and I wanted to do an offset bet, I would take Pulev by knockout. And that's just to cover you just in case some spectacular shit happens. I don't think Pulev beats Wladimir Klitschko in Germany. Also, another thing I didn't mention, in reference to the Alexander Povetkin fight, I think Klitschko can out-muscle Pulev to the point where if Pulev does get too close, Klitschko can just push him out the way and do the same thing that he did against Alexander Povetkin. And if the referee is not calling that shit, taking away any points, I mean, it'd be another fight where he gets away with pushing and rubbing a glove in the face, things of that nature. And since Pulev's style is really just an outside, jab your way to the inside type of fighter, I don't think he's going to be able to stop that. So I got Klitschko by unanimous decision, possibly a early stoppage. I'd say if he stops him, I'd say maybe round 8. But I'm going to go ahead and conclude this. Do what you do under the video, but be real. This is real talk for real fans. 1.